How you do that, damn? How you do that, damn? And I ain't mad about it, yeah. I am your man's Nic Rattlehead. And behind this camera, somewhere out in California, watching over your boy, making sure he stays sharp, man. It's my man's with the master plan, 100 grand, only you, me, and God knows how much I love this guy, man. And man, you know I do. Tell him one more time, what's your name? Matt the Graff.
Meow.
Matt the Graff, boy, yeah. And we would like to collectively welcome you guys to Aftershock Reviews, your place for the best extreme music reviews. And today I get to you, man. I put it in front of your feet, right? A really good slice. It's still old school death metal, and it is, and we'll get into it. But the name of this album is called Excretion of Mortality by Cerebral Rot. Now, this follows up their 2019 release, and I have to make sure I'm saying it right, Odious Descent into Decay, right? And I remember when that album came out, and it was a really great death metal album that caught my ear, but there were things I was really hoping that they would double down on, so to speak. And they did it here, right? And what I mean by that is a lot of the track listings felt a little bit almost unfinished a little bit. Like they have like a whole bunch of ideas and they stuffed them into a track as best as they possibly could, right? But then it always felt like they were leaving something on the table. It's kind of like when an NBA player doesn't pick up the rest of their contract except they opt out and they leave like $20 million sitting there right there on the table. That's what it kind of feels like they did, right? And this is no knock against them, but this is kind of how I felt a little bit. So what do I get here with Excretion of Mortality? Or I'll call it Excretion because that's kind of dope saying it like that, right? I get them saying, cool. You want longer tracks? We got longer tracks, right? And the thing about it is I'm happy that they did it. And then you also need to be careful about what you hope for because you just might get it. And I'll get into that in a second. But at the end of the day, when you look at this album from a bird's eye view, what is it they call it in the corporate world? When you have a high level view of it, right? I think this album is the equivalent to the Fast and the Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw. Walk with me. Just give me a sec and walk with me, right? Because the Fast and the Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw, is a movie that knows exactly what it is and what it wants to do. Because at this point, especially Hobbs, oh, for the love of Pete, especially Hobbs, it's a cartoon. It's a freaking cartoon. And not only a cartoon, but a cartoon from the 90s with all the explosions and ridiculousness that they could possibly cram into it. And that's what it is. It's a live action cartoon, right? And it takes what we know for the Fast and Furious franchise to be and amps it up to 11, puts it on the screen, gives us a wink and a nod, and then says, do you like it? You see what I mean? And that's what this is. It's taking everything from death metal that we know, the gore, the ridiculous amount of gore, right? Ridiculous amounts of gore, right? It's taking a lot of the palm muting, right? The ridiculous amount of palm muting, right? It's also taking the atmosphere, right? And the gurgling, snarling vocals, right? It's cramming them into 46, 47 minutes? That's about it. And it says, take it. Here, right? It knows what it's here for, and it's here to give you a thrill. And I think that it succeeds in that aspect, right? And the thing about it is when you really start looking at the track list, so let's get into it. Excretion of Mortality actually starts us off, right? And we have these fat chords holding up this almost manic, shrill guitar run, right? And it's ascending and then it descends at the very last second, right? So it goes like, you see what I mean, right? And it's so wobbly and it's so off balance and it's almost like it's like writhing a little bit, right? It feels like it's really writhing. And because of that, it kind of makes you feel a little off balance, like you're walking on shaky ground, so to speak, right? And the thing is, when you're walking on the shaky ground, the ground opens up and you start to see all these corpses just come out Thriller style from the ground, right? But instead of them dancing around, one of them has the cool little shredded vest and the rest of that stuff. No, these things are missing stomachs. It's got an eye that's missing, a face that's completely just disintegrated, and all you see is meat, pus, and larva. It's not cool, but it's classic death metal imagery. It's classic, almost, I don't want to say classic because the band is still technically new and they've only released one album, but it's Outer Heaven type of stuff, right? And I appreciate that about that, because both bands are paying homage to bands like Autopsy and stuff like that, which, I think these guys really do love as well. And for me, when it gets past that, it starts hitting us with these crazy thick grooves, right? They're doing nothing new. They're doing nothing out of the box. There's no out of the box thinking here. It is classic old school thick boy death metal. That's what it is. And I absolutely adore it because of that. Because, like I said before, we're going back to the Hobbs and Shaw thing. Hobbs and Shaw knows you want explosions. They know you want gore. Guess what? That's exactly what you get. And they give you that with big, stinky bass. Can we talk about the bass real quick? Because can I say it again? Big, stinky bass. Because the bass to me is the instrument that kind of grounds everything. Yes, we have the lead that's telling us the stories or setting up the motif track after track, especially when it comes to spewing purulence, which we'll get to that in a second as well. But we have that guitar doing that. The vocal is literally raining down upon you. And the vocal is so good. Like, it feels like a lot of the time it's coming from his stomach, right? And like moving and crawling and sprawling throughout his chest to his throat and out his mouth, right? And the thing is, he might grunt, he might growl, he might gurgle, but then sometimes it's weird. It's like he's grunting so much that his throat can't take it and it goes into a whisper, right? But it is an ominous whisper. It is an evil, malevolent whisper, right? And it works really well because his vocals are also, feels like they're shot in the background. Matter of fact, everything feels like it's shot in the background. Why? Because there is a crap ton of reverb, throughout this entire album. The whole thing feels cavernous. The whole thing feels like it has a really good sense of depth because the reverb is on the guitar, the reverb is on the vocal, the reverb is literally everywhere. It's on the percussion. It's everywhere, right? And this is a really good thing. On multiple listens, it can be a little bit weary, but it is still really good, right? And it's very, I'll say tastefully implemented, right? I really like the way that this atmosphere has been set for us because it's something that's familiar. And every now and again, when people are trying to do, especially I think like forward-thinking bands are trying to do something new all the time, it's great to be able to come back and listen to something that's just a hair bit familiar, right? It's great to be able to be like, I know that. I like that. This is why I came to this place. This is why I came to this party in the beginning. And that's what this is, right? At its heart. Because at the same time, like I said before, the big star though is the bass. Because the bass gives it its bottom. The bass gives it its nuts. And yes, that is the classic characteristic of what that instrument does. But in this situation, if the bass was not here, the whole thing would ring really hollow, especially with the copious amounts of reverb, like I said before. The bass is the thing that makes it feel like it's grunting, like it's growling, like it's dragging its nubs, trying to devour you whole. Like, it's really great because of that. The bass is the standout instrument. The bass is the standout sound element that makes this thing turn around, right? It's really good. It's really good. And as we continue throughout the track, yes, we have the big thumping riffs, right? And then it goes into this crazy, and I love it, crazy hammer beats. Now, look, listen to me. I love things that are ignorant. I love things that are a little bit low IQ. And a hammer beat is right down my alley, right? Because it's not anything necessarily technical. You really don't have to be able to do much to do a hammer beat. I'm not a percussionist, but I can go like do. It's great. It's absolutely great. The thing just goes from like maybe a 0.5 IQ to an absolute 0. It's great. And it's absolutely, as the vocalist is like encompassing you, the guitars almost bleed into our faded background. And what you really hear standing out at you is that percussion and that bass, the rhythm section. Matter of fact, there we go. Matter of fact, I'll even give the percussionist his due because he needs it. Because it's the whole rhythm section that makes this go. Because the percussionist is great. He knows how to necessarily stay in the pocket, which is a lot of what this album does, as well as he understands how to introduce a really cool feel that you might miss. And I know a lot of people hate him, but it's a Dave Matthews type of thing, right? And it's just like Carter Beauford is just like, I can be technical when I want to be, but stay in the pocket, and then I do something really cool here. Don't drink the water if you think I'm jiving. Same thing here. A lot of the time he's in the pocket, but then he'll do something insanely cool, or he'll just drop his IQ, flunk an SAT, and start doing hammer beats. It's great. It's absolutely wonderful, right? And then the album starts to catch its rhythm, and it starts to understand that this is what I do well. Ignorant, stupid death metal and spewing purulence is the epitome of that. It is the crown. It is the jewel sitting in that crown, right? Because to me, it also helps break up the monotony a little bit sometimes, because when you have a lot of like death doomy aspects and it gets really slow, you need to be able to shift the gear, so to speak, and keep us guessing. And that's what spewing purulence does, right? Matter of fact, that's what the title track does. That's what this band does well. And to me, spewing purulence starts out at a blitzkrieg, right? And it has what I think is still a manic melodic tone by this lead guitar off in the distance somewhere. And you hear almost the echo of it. It's great. It's absolutely wonderful, right? But then the album does something, right? And this is what I mean by be careful about what you wish for, because you just might get it. It stays in that lane. And oh my gosh, is Nic actually about to say something negative about an album? I wouldn't call this a negative, but I would say it's something that maybe they should address in the future. So maybe negative I think this album can sometimes be a little bit samey. Right? And the thing about it is, when you're talking about an old school death metal album, being able to have good riffs that stay in your head is paramount. It is paramount, because when you take that atonal approach, a lot of times what these tracks do, right? The only thing that introduces its harmony, its melody, so to speak, will be that lead, right? Yes, you'll have some type of, melodic line, I guess some type of melodic line when it has those big chunky riffs that can sometimes be a little bit repetitious, but it's not enough to keep you invested, right? It almost can turn into background noise. A good band to look at when you're talking about low IQ death metal that can still be catchy, see a Genocide Pact. Order of Torment, really great album, right? And a lot of that stuff is low IQ as well, right? Like Pain Reprisal and whatnot. But it is a lot of the melodic lines that are uber catchy, great earworms that stick into your ear and stay there. This album kind of lacks that a little bit, and it becomes even more apparent on the closer. The 11-minute and 5-second closer, which is crowning and I have to make sure I say this right, disgustulent. I think I'm right when I say that. Yet again, the reverb-drenched guitar has a solo, which is almost touching 30 seconds to a minute, right? And it then goes into a lot of our thick guitars. And the thing about it is this. Remember when I said before I wanted longer tracks? Didn't want this longer, right? And the thing about it is it almost kind of reveals the cracks of the songwriting, right? And to me, I wish they would kind of like sew that up just a little bit, because I do think, and this is not me trying to backtrack or anything else like that, I still think this album is good. It's just that I think there's still some things that they can like button up to make their next release freaking great. And song length and introducing more catchy riffage is going to be the key, right? I don't have a problem with all the reverb. I don't have all the problem with the reverb. I don't have a problem with the vocals. I don't have a problem with any of that stuff. But it's the lack of those things that keeps this release, that keeps Excretion of Mortality from being absolutely fan-freaking-tastic. It's good. It's good, man. It's the Daniel Bryant B+ player. It's great, right? But it is not fantastic. And I know, especially listening to their first album and then now this, they can hit fan-freaking-tastic, man. And believe you me, if they keep this cadence up, because they released Odious in 2019, and now this one in 2021. If they do something in 2023, do math, Nick, do math. If they release something in 2023, right, I'm hoping that this is the thing that says, cool, let's go over this edge now. I like them. I like this. And I think it is a good release that you should go and check out for yourself. Just don't even take my word for it. I feel like LeVar Burton when I said that. But don't take my word for it. Give it a shot yourself, okay? The name of this album is called Excretion of Mortality by Cerebral Rot, out now on $20 spin. I'll leave a link in the description below for you to actually pick some merchandise up. If they still have CD and vinyls releases, please go and check those out. On top of that, don't forget to like and subscribe to Aftershock Reviews. Look at this. He actually remembered to say it. But it's good. It's good. It's good. I am your man's Nic Rattlehead. And behind this camera, somewhere out in California, watching over your boy is your man's, my buddy, my pal, my compadre, and my amigo. Tell him one more time what's your name. Matt the Graff. Matt the Graff. Woo! Yes, sir. Wash your hands, support your bands. Peace. Oh, you'll do that, Dale. Yeah, you do that. Oh, wait, I didn't hit the back. Don't put this in there.